All right, you ready?
Um,
It's finally happened, Spiff. It's Advent.
What's wrong with Advent?
Nothing's wrong with Advent. It's just so preparing.
Perry?
Yeah, getting ducks in a row and making sure there's a pink candle and all the readings from Isaiah. And the gospel reading this week is from Mark, and Mark doesn't have a Christmas story.
You don't use the lectionary, though.
Well, yes, but you know what I do use?
What? I bet you use the purple Advent stole from Jeff One Row Designs.
I do. It's a purple origami crane stole, so I can use it for Advent and for Lent.
Ooh, that's so awesome. Does Jeff One Row Designs make seasonal banners or processional banners?
Yes.
What about frontals?
Yes.
And chasubles?
Uh-huh.
Copes?
Yeah.
Ooh, and you know I love a good cape. Does Jeff One Row make capes?
I don't know, but probably, because if it's a liturgical textile, you can get it from Jeff One Row Designs. They've been making ordinary time extraordinary for the last 15 years. And not to mention right now, they're making Advent Vente, like Starbucks. We're working on an Advent motto, Jeff, I promise.
So whether you are shopping for the smallest altar accessory or reevaluating your entire collection of vestments and paraments, Jeff One Row Designs would be honored to work with you to create something special for you and your community.
That's right. Visit jeffwonrow.com, JEFFWUNROW, for a catalog of stoles, vestments, banners, paraments, along with ordering information and customization possibilities.
Well, you're so good at saying that website. I'm terrible. It's a tongue twister, but it's so good to know. JEFFWUNROW, jeffonrow.com. And if you at home are listening to this promo, you have a very special promo code. It is 2-on-1, all one word, and you get 15% off every stole that you want to buy, all the stoles. And so if you missed the big Black Friday or Cyber Monday sale, this promo code still works for you.
We'd like to thank Jeff One Row Designs for being our lead sponsor. These stoles still seal the show, and you can check them out one more time at Jeff One Row, JEFFWUNROW.com today, but not before you finish the show, because the show is going to be great.
Who do we have on today? As I let them in the way from the green room.
Who is it? Who could it be?
Who could it be?
Joining us today is the Reverend David Wheeler, who is joining us.
Yeah.
David, are you there? I'm on my phone today, y'all. There he is. David, hi. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you're doing?
I don't know what I'm doing hardly ever, but I think I'm on your show. Oh, you mean like what I'm doing in life? I don't know. So I'm David Wheeler. I'm a ordained United Church of Christ pastor, also standing in the Oklahoma region for the Disciples. Before that, I was a United Methodist. I think I've joined the UCC about 5 years ago. I was United Methodist pastor for close to 20 years. Got tired of waiting for them to be a more inclusive group, and so here I am. But I serve 2 congregations currently in Oklahoma. Neither one is in the community where I live. I live in the greater Oklahoma City area. And then one of my congregations is 72 miles west in Weatherford, Oklahoma, the Federated Church. So it belongs to the United Church of Christ, the Disciples of Christ, and the Presbyterian Church USA under one roof. And then my other congregation is First Congregational United Church of Christ in Norman, Oklahoma, which is 35 miles south of where I live. So back when worship is not online, my normal Sundays would be like a 240-mile drive. By the time I go out, back, drop off my spouse, go down to Norman, and come back. It's quite a spread out deal, but there are only 14 United Churches of Christ in Oklahoma, and I serve 2 of them, I tell people. So, you know.
Well, it's kind of funny that you stopped being a Methodist and you became a circuit rider. So.
Isn't it? And it's pretty ironic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pretty good. Norman is my halfway point. I used to live in Dallas, and now I live in Wichita, and I hate Norman. Like, I don't hate the people of Norman. I don't hate the city of Norman. It goes on forever. And once you hit Norman, it's like another hour and a half, and then suddenly you're in Texas or Kansas. So,
yeah.
I'm
sorry.
Love for our Norman fans, so, you know.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like, again, I don't hate Norman, actually. I hate driving through anywhere because I'm impatient.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. Okay, well, now that
we've had an entire conversation about Norman, Oklahoma. Shout out to Norman.
Woo! Go Sooners, maybe. Is that right?
I don't see. I'm conflicted. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, but then almost all of my ministry has been in Oklahoma, and my oldest son just graduated last year from OU. So I've written them lots of checks, and it kind of made me queasy every time I did it, to be honest.
I mean, I knew the Boomer Sooner song in college before I knew my own college song because of one of my college friends, big Oklahoma person. So I feel like the Sooner, kind of motto and all of that has been infiltrating my life slowly for about 20 years at this point. But I don't know. I still ended up at TCU, so.
So this actually informs our conversation about memes, by the way, and I'm going to pivot us right now because I want to talk about memes. So memes, of course, is the subject that David has chosen today for our conversation, which I got to admit, like, it's the biggest topic we've ever had to cover in an hour. Like, I thought it was rough with like Schitt's Creek, but memes. So David, why memes? What are you going for? Tell us a little bit about that.
I have a love-hate relationship with them. I don't know about y'all, but like, I love them. Like, I keep a bunch on mostly snarky ones on my phone to send some of my close friends. At the same time, I think there's a certain oversimplification, you know what I mean, that has happened. The really good ones can nail it, but it seems like there are so many. How do you decide what's really good? Sometimes what's really good is just for a laugh, but sometimes there are some serious memes, or there are some kind of, ouch kind of a meme where you go,
Very pointed.
Yeah, very pointed. So I guess it depends on what you're looking for with them, but I love them when they strike my funny bone, and sometimes even when they sting a little. But I guess if there's something I hate about them, that's a strong word, but I guess it's that sometimes they oversimplify and can even spread misinformation if we're not careful.
So that's one of my questions that I wanted to kind of pose. Arthur, if you're okay with me taking the first question for the group, obviously, because it's just a conversation, but do memes offer a kind of space to make challenging concepts a little bit more digestible? And what might we as faith leaders learn from that, especially as we, if you are a lectionary preacher, you're going to hit those tough chapters that you want to skip, and yet it's in good faith and for the good of all if we don't and really kind of do them. But what can we learn, and how do we make them digestible, or should we?
Well, are you asking me or are you asking Arthur?
I'm asking whoever wants to take a stab at it.
It's a conversation, not an interview.
All right, good. What do you think, Arthur?
I think so. I think memes are supposed to start the conversation and be the realm in which it happens. And I wonder if it's really a matter of is preaching conversational, is ministry conversational, or is ministry become so here's one person in the front doing 90% of the work for the people when it should be liturgy. Ooh, there it is. There's my answer. Memes are liturgical because they create a game we're supposed to play. So it really depends if we're having a conversation or if we're having a lecture.
I'll go along with that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's the idea I've got. Is like they get you to have the conversation, and or at least they point you that direction. It's up to us whether we take the conversation that any meme. And there's so many, we can only choose so many conversations to be a part of in a single day or in a single lifetime for that matter. But the ones that seem to hit close to home, I think catch, I don't know about you all, but they catch my attention when they resonate with something I've been through or am going through, or identify closely with. What's the word? I have a friend that always uses the word resonate. That resonates with me. So I guess that's, it resonates. So
what are your favorite ones? Like, and don't give us the exact lines on it, just, the format type thing. Like, I like pointing Spider-Man. I love screaming housewife at cat.
I like screaming house. I put that when you guys asked me beforehand, and I never really knew where that came from, and I'm not sure that I still do. As I understand it, that one came from like two entirely different eras and two different shows, or and they were just kind of merge together, but I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, it's pretty funny. A cat and a woman arguing, you know?
Mhm.
So
Oh, so you don't spend a lot of time. I mean, my house, I feel like that meme hits always close to home because that is just a daily in my home. It's just me yelling at my cats for generally over things that they have no control over and are not a part of.
yeah, yeah. I like the I like all of the Biden Obama memes too. I got to confess, I kind of like
Mhm.
those. You know, there's some bad ones, probably tacky ones, but there are some I thought that were, you know, there've been some good ones too. Most of those are just, for me, fun. You know.
Well, sure.
Arthur, what's your favorite?
My favorite is it's got to be Irma Gerd because I'm an old schooler. I love the story behind that, and honestly, knowing more about the obsessive girlfriend. Are you familiar with that one, Spiff, David?
I think so.
Spiff.
I don't think so. Maybe.
So, like years ago, and this is something I want to kind of like, if it's okay to pivot or open up another part of this topic. Years ago, there was a Justin Bieber sing along, like make up your own lyrics contest, and this girl named Lena entered the contest. And it was kind of about like how much I'd love it if you were my boyfriend, and it was a little clingy. So during the silent parts, or rather the instrumental parts of that music, she literally just like creepily stared into the camera because it was kind of funny. And the next day she woke up and somebody took a screen cap, and there it is. And she's like, and it could have ruined my life, but she pivoted it into a career. Now she's a mental health awareness advocate. It's kind of neat. And I like it because it allows people to talk about topics that are really uncomfortable, but to do so in a way that's not disrespectful. It's just irreverent. And as somebody who is very much irreverent, but not disrespectful, that helps. I suppose the question on that, like in regards to the church, and something I'd like us to talk about is what does it mean that the church doesn't go viral anymore? Has the church stopped itself from being memed, so to speak?
Well, I mean, what does viral mean? I think is part of the question is like, who, how do we, I don't know, our numbers have gone up online. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that we've put our finger on the pulse of pop culture and have brought what it means. We haven't shied away from digital spaces that have been, concerning to a lot of church, that for us, and yet we're not going viral in a way that, for me, viral kind of still has a connotation of like not great. Like you went viral generally for, it's generally not for anything wonderful. And so, but we have a lot of new people watching. And so like when certain things happen, when our church is involved in certain things, we get more viewers, right? And so like, I guess, is that a form of being viral? Is it shared? Is it participation? Is it, what is that? I don't know, David, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's always my question. As a younger minister back in the day when I was in the United Methodist Church, it's a very, due to the hierarchy and the way it's all set up, you're sent right to churches. You're not called like we are now in our more congregational settings. And so the number one way that you got the best ministry opportunities was to put more butts in the seats. That was it. So you wanted to put butts in the seats, and if you put butts in the seats and dollars in the plates, as long as you didn't do anything blatantly immoral or it had to be pretty bad. I mean, you got a bigger, better church, so to speak, bigger, better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I kept, I was pretty good at putting butts in the seats and dollars in the plates and, built some large congregations. Then I got appointed to a 7,500 member congregation and hated it. So but I was filling the seats, with maybe a message that wasn't really true to who I was. I was being overly pragmatic. So I guess that's my asterisk, I guess, if you want to say, like, if you can, if you happen to be able to do something authentic with you as a pastor, as your congregation, and to whatever it is, whatever vision of the gospel that we want to live into,
Sure.
then I think it's a good thing. So, but for me, we were just kind of, I'm a much more social justice driven, liberation kind of theological foundation. And at that time, I wasn't brave enough to try that in bedroom communities around Tulsa where I was pastoring. But hey, I threw caution to the wind, and it works actually really well in Weatherford, Oklahoma. You wouldn't believe that hardly, but it does. So, I think it's about authenticity. That's moral courage enough to be true to who you are, who your congregation is, and anyway. Sorry,
because the memes that are manufactured just don't stick.
Yeah. They have to
Can
resonate.
we talk about Charlie bit my finger for a second? I just need to throw this out there because the church sometimes feels like it. Spiff, are you familiar with Charlie bit my finger?
Yeah.
Okay.
That realm of memes and kind of the viral videos is much more my speed.
Yeah, Ebon's World when it was a thing. It still is a thing apparently, but yeah. So for viewers at home who may not be familiar, this is where I would actually put up my screen if I weren't from my phone because my internet is wildly unreliable today. But it is a British boy with this Cockney accent who's sitting with his infant brother on his lap, and he keeps putting his finger into the baby's mouth, and the baby keeps biting it, and it's Charlie bit my finger, and it's cute. Here's what happened with the Charlie bit my finger people. The parents just kept shoving their kids wherever they could. It was literally one line. They ended up being like 12 and 9, and it was like, oh yeah, I remember that, watching that one time like 5 years ago. Why are they here? It was amazing. Anyways, I think the church is Charlie bit my finger. The church tries to ride on a few memes it's created instead of being cutting edge. Is that fair? And I mean Big C Church, not our congregations. Or is that unfair? Maybe I'm being unfair on purpose.
I don't know. I think go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say, I think it's fair and unfair, depending on, because I think that's what we have now. I think, this of course is my bias. I think we have multiple Christianities. I don't think we're monolithic, obviously. So I don't know that the Big C Church thing ever worked. I mean, in terms of us all being alike, and not that we're necessarily supposed to, but there are some congregations that seem to get the gospel, better than others, and that's all, of course, judged from our own perspective. So
what do we hope I guess my question to all of this is, what do we hope the Big C Church and or our local congregations go viral for? Like, what's the actual hope there, right? Like, I know I can speak for my own church, and I could probably speak for, no, I don't want to speak for Disciples writ large, but like, that's, like, for us, we hope that we go viral for following Jesus in a way that possibly models a new form of church and a new form of Christianity and a new way of following Jesus, right? Like, for us, like, that's our church. Our worship experience is multilingual, multicultural, led by a Black woman, queer focused, woman led, and like, and for us, we intentionally name all of those intersections because the church writ large does not name that we should be that intersectional, or at our best, the kingdom is intersectional, I suppose. But so for us, or for me, I hope that we go viral for that type of work. What we go viral for is generally for pushing against the system, and we go viral in communities that we don't want to go viral for. And that's part of the conversation, right? Is like, who are you going viral for and with? Because I want to go viral within Christian spaces that offer, you know, expansive love in new ways. And where we go is hyper conservative spaces saying these women don't know the gospel. Like, and that's, you know, that's the challenge of both needing prophetic public witness and cultivating the kind of more tight-knit communities of a small local congregation to like actually do the work. I don't know. So what, for you two, what do you hope, like, I'll ask it in a really, I guess, more intentional way. If you could choose the way in which the churches you serve right now go viral, what would that be for?
I defer to our guest.
Extravagant welcome, social justice.
Social justice in what realm? Like,
Well,
what avenue?
I serve 2 congregations, and it would be a little bit different, you know, depending where they are. But I think one church is open and affirming. My Norman congregation is open and affirming. The Weatherford congregation's in the discernment process for being open and affirming. And we've had 2 years in a row where we've had actually a Pride Sunday. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that it'll happen. So so I think that's one area. I think we've done quite a bit of work because we're mostly in both congregations, upper middle class, white, liberal Christians. We've tried to do some work on racial justice. So we've done some work there. So I think those are the main areas, you know. And then, and I think both places, it's kind of my bias that you can do kind of a, you know, you've probably heard the old term. I don't mean it like it used to mean it, but like an ancient future kind of a worship where you can have some even secular music woven in tastefully with some hymnody and other traditional forms of music. So,
get some Cardi B up in there.
We have actually, yeah.
I love that. Arthur, what about you? What's Riverside gonna go viral for?
I like the phrase, yeah, nah, which is different than nah, yeah. Yeah, nah is I acknowledge that this is the status quo and we just choose not to participate in it.
Okay, but I guess the question more so is like, what is your church doing well?
Oh.
What do you hope is picked up in it, you know, what do you hope you're known for?
I think it's this tremendous understanding of advocacy for folks in the greater Wichita area. And our hope, our steering is, what does it mean to be a center of community for our neighborhood, even if that neighborhood does not attend worship? What does it mean to be a space where people gather, where people find wholeness, where people are invited to experience, to have a holy encounter, whether those are words that they're going to use for it?
I like that.
Yeah.
So I have a question on, so meme culture writ large is kind of understood to be a younger, right? Like memes are the millennial and younger generations kind of dialect in a certain way. But I don't think it should be, or, you know, maybe it should, I don't know. So what do y'all think about like using memes as intergenerational work? Because do memes offer a kind of, what's the word I was looking for? I have a common language to start with.
So I'm going to push back on the memes only being for millennials and younger, because I think every generation has memes. I think if you call a baby boomer meathead, they're going to immediately think that you've seen All in the Family. Memes develop from a shared viewpoint. It's hell. I mean, look at the way that in Scripture, Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it's probably not just the quotation of the first line of the 22nd Psalm, but he may be saying the 22nd Psalm. It may be, you know, when you take your one line in, I'm showing my hand for the last question, forgive me. Throughout the David narrative, there's the song, Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s. It's that which becomes a reference that points to something bigger by only pointing to itself. Now, how do we do the intergenerational thing? Um, I don't know. So I have a kid, and she's Gen Z, and is she Gen Z? She might even be what's after. I think so.
I think she might be what's after, but who knows?
Who knows? And like one of the things they do is they watch videos of people playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt older than when I walk in on my kid watching a video of someone else playing a video game that she plays for hours. Because I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. Perhaps it is what are your memes? Perhaps it is like a comparison in it. Also, like, they get really dark really fast, or they get mean really fast. I don't know what to do. David, maybe you can shed some light for me.
I don't know. I've got two sons that are in their early 20s. One is 20 and one's 22. Their taste in memes is definitely different than mine at 47. You know, and you're right. My son was pondering. My 20-year-old son was pondering earning a living somehow, not full time, but like part time while he goes through school, playing video games, and people subscribe to watch him play the video games. So,
and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all. I was trying to talk to him about it, and he got frustrated with me asking questions because I think he mistook me trying to ask him about that, where I was just trying to learn. He thought I was judging him up or whatever. I'm like, no, if I'm judging you, you'll know it. So.
But I think that's part of the conversation, right? Is like the things that we don't get, because I think if you go to your more established congregants and say, hey, what's your favorite meme? They probably won't have them, right? That it is a little bit of a generational thing, at least to qualify them as memes and to say, this is what it is. Maybe, there are definitely cultural lexicons that infiltrate kind of intergenerational dialogue, but memes particularly have been born out of a digital generation. I think. And so are we missing an opportunity to value them in a way that asks established generations to meet the younger generation, the digital generations in that space, so that because there's an undervaluing kind of writ large in Christian communities, I would say, of like the ways in which the new spaces of community, right? It was, for my generation, it was, the video games are going to ruin your brain. My parents' generation, it was television going to ruin your brain. Radio is going to ruin your brain. It's all those.
There's no proof it didn't. Like humanity's just been on a downhill slide for 120 years. Yeah. Sure.
And so, but it's one of those, right? But like, what does it mean to bring back those kind of to start valuing the younger generations communication forms equitably in spaces that more established spaces have been.
So just as like in a sermon moment, we might play an audio recording, or we might play a video clip. We might pop up a picture of disaffected, sassy SpongeBob with written in alternating caps, women can't be apostles or whatever, to indicate that's complete bunkum. That's not, that's a proper use of the meme, because it's mocking a stupid viewpoint, and an incorrect one and a harmful one. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that there's I like the idea. So I read earlier this week about a professor that changed one of his final papers. He was teaching about like public worship or something like that, or like public theology. And instead of doing a full paper, he asked his students to do memes on sin, like use popular memes, but create an original meme using kind of an established like format to talk about sin. And like I watched some of them and I was like, these are fantastic. They like, some of them obviously are not my viewpoint of sin. Some of them are more crass than others. But it at minimum offered kind of like common language. And I thought, this is a really missed opportunity for churches to engage this way. Like, when was the last time you asked your entire community to say, think of a way in which to spread the good news of Christ Jesus in a format that one plays to the strengths of a particular group of people, but can be understood by everyone. Like we haven't done that. And I think that for me, I'm looking at it as a like, I like memes in the church because it's a missed opportunity to say like, this is a form of language that we need to become adept at speaking because it's not going away, and it actually helps understand nuanced concepts in new ways.
Yeah, distill your definition of sin down into an image.
Right. Which is super hard and super cool, I think. I mean, how often are we, in business school or in like kind of in business writ large, they ask you for elevator pitches, right? Like, what's your elevator pitch of your church, things like that. And like memes have really are kind of a form of an elevator pitch in a way, or can be if we think about that in like, but just not in an elevator. It's here's online, here's what I think, here's a really quick and digestible way to go about this. So here's my call to all of you 2-on-1 fans out there. Send us a meme, make a meme. Please don't make it of us. I mean, do it if you want. That's my 3 nature. I'm gonna name it like my fear of being made fun of online. But like, I don't know, make a meme.
I won't send you the ones I've made then.
I love it because I think, but I want to know, like, what is your vision of the church, right? Like, use a meme. What is your vision of the work of the church? Because we need to start utilizing these spaces more to talk about, at least in my space, the religious left, and push that out there so that the viewpoints of those of us that don't identify in those hyper conservative evangelical spaces get heard, because for this generation, this is how they're speaking to each other. And
I have a question for you all. Are you on TikTok?
Yes.
Not yet. I'm grabbing a power cord, by the way.
Oh.
All right. We are having all sorts of technical issues today here at 2-on-1 Friends. So we are grateful that David is so gracious with us. So I'm on TikTok. What about you, David?
I have an account. I have yet to post anything, but I got it.
That's where I'm at too. So
yeah, I got it because I wanted to check it out. And I'm wondering, it's not just memes. I mean, there are plenty of memes on there per se, but I think what I tend to notice on TikTok are these really fast-paced, I'm talking about church ones that really seem to get some traction, if you want to use the word go viral.
Yeah.
But the hashtag progressive Christianity and progressive Christian has really gone viral there. That's the only place I know of that it is.
I haven't actually seen it, so that's good to know.
It's like, oh gosh, what's her name? Sarah Towns, pastors a UCC in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I forget the name of whether it's First or another one, but she is a prolific TikTok poster, and she and several other progressive clergy decided to make it a priority to try to get that the hashtags for progressive Christian, progressive Christianity to get a lot of exposure. And I forget the count. It's in the millions now. How many times that hashtag has been used? It's the only social media format I know where that the progressive Christianity has really got some traction. So
that's good to know. I mean, I think hashtags in their own right have like that kind of form of common language for that meme space, right? And like we've had our friend Jamie Plunkett, who has come on, who did the West Wing episode with us, had a tweet go viral, and you have
Sorry,
so I don't hear that. And so he had his tweet go viral and about this kind of progressive Christian space, and that was the first time I think I'd seen that as well. So TikTok being a new form of communication as well. Why are pastors, even younger pastors? I'm considered a younger pastor. I think all 3 of us are considered younger pastors. Why are we not jumping on board every new digital space to move this conversation forward?
Well, I don't know if I'm younger or not anymore. When I was coming up through the ranks, they kept making the they kept lifting the young clergy age and moving it up 5 years. And when they moved it to 40, I just laughed and said, nah, we're not that young. But
You're considered a young adult at my church if you're under 50.
So mine too.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of mine is pretty oldish, but the other one, we've got a lot of the new members. We've talked about 40 new members in the last 18 months.
Oh, wow.
And most of them are younger. So, and that's in the smaller community where they're not used to having, gay welcoming, queer welcoming church. So it's really, I think moral courage. I think the content, don't you all? I mean, I think the content of our message is really super important. The packaging of it, if you really want to gain a lot of traction, is also important, go viral, to use that word. But I think the content, being crystal clear with our own members even, is such a challenge for so many clergy and so many ministry situations. Building that shared sense of identity and of values. Used to be all about the mission statement. I can't stand mission statements. Sorry if y'all like them. But I think it's about the culture of the congregation and about the values and how they live them out, which then becomes mission, sure. But I don't think I've never found a lot of fruit coming out of spending hours pinning down a mission statement. I used to have a consultant that said, if your mission statement won't fit on a t-shirt, nobody will.
Oh, you mean how congregations mistake identity statements for mission statements? So then we are a congregation that believes through worship and Bible study that we can best be in committees that go into yes, 6 words. You get 6 words to tell me what you're about. Maybe 8 if I like you.
Well, and I mean, there's this, I come from a marketing background, right? So my first career was in theatrical marketing. And there's that notion that, and I try and stick to this in all honesty, like the 5-second rule. If I don't know what you're trying to tell me about something in 5 seconds, I keep passing, which is why I think that this meme culture helps us boil down our message in a way that is super helpful and undervalued. Preachers love, myself included, to go on and preach these 20-minute sermons, 30-minute sermons about the same thing and make sure we get our point across and look at our language and look at this turn of phrase that I have cultivated, which I definitely love of myself. And yet how often, how much of that could have been boiled down into a singular image that says, this is what this message is saying. This is what the scripture is trying to teach us. Here we go. Like, what does it look like for a sermon to exist fully in a meme?
Let's try this because I want to try it. And I know you preached this last Sunday, Steph. By the way, how did it go?
I think it went well.
Good.
I'll check out my sermon last week on 1 Corinthians, because for those of you on the bingo chart, I'm the first one to bring up 1 Corinthians this week. And I preached on that. And so, as you can all imagine, my very first call was to Arthur to say, I need your help in exegetical work.
So can you sum up your sermon from this past Sunday? I'll try it too. And David, you need to try it also. Can you sum up your sermon in 8 words?
In 8 words?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or less, or fewer.
God believes in you. Believe in yourself too.
Nice.
Are you going to go? You want me to go?
I can go, but you can go. You're our guest.
All right.
First, what did you preach on?
Mm-hmm.
Me?
Yeah, what was your text? My text was 1 Corinthians 1, 3-9.
Mine was a little hellscape. Little apocalypse. Mark, from the lectionary, Mark 13. Mm-hmm. So, and follow the Advent theme of hope. We're doing a series. I don't know if y'all saw the one they put together, Sanctified Art. We're doing the Those Who Dream. They put together some incredible artwork and they give you some theme ideas. That's, so we ran with those. So hope was the theme, which is ironic, preaching Mark 13, but it's in there if you dig deep enough. Sure. So my sermon, I guess, so the title is Those Who Dream, Keep Awake. and the theme was hope. So my sermon would, in a nutshell, would be hope keeps us awake to watch where God breaks into the world, to watch for where God. That's probably more than 8 words.
That was 11.
Hope keeps us awake to work with God.
I like it.
Oh, that's good. Mine was hope only works on the offensive. I did Luke 1:1-25, and like I decided a few years ago, like I'm never using barren imagery again, and I'm very careful whenever we talk about conception, because like that's not something we've ever handled sensitively as a church, I think, as a whole, or as churches. Yeah, there you go. And I got to talk about Theophilus, who's my homeboy and might be me, so I don't know.
Love that. So I like the idea that first of all, we're in Advent 1. It is the week of hope for all of us, right? And I like this kind of the boiling it down to kind of what does that mean? So is the church best utilizing the call for kind of theological imagination or prophetic imagination in this time? No, just like period or question mark. Is the church utilizing in its best practice the theological imagination? Because I think for me, that's what memes do. Memes take a bit of imagination to create, to understand, to be open enough to let what you see in front of you and what you're reading make sense, even though they may come from 2 different contexts.
I don't think so. Our potential. I think there are hopeful breakthroughs out there every now and then where the church gets a lot of things right. I tend to talk about too much, maybe even what the church does wrong, but the church does a lot of things right too. But due to the very nature of how our congregation clergy relationships are set up, we have to worry a lot about keeping tithers. And so my bone of contention is that we're not controversial enough to, quite often, to cut in through all of the noise in our culture, that we don't have a sharp enough edge, that we don't make a cut in all of the noise out there. So the times where my
that's
church.
Interesting.
No, go ahead.
No, the sharp enough edge. That's honestly where I was going to it. So right now there's a meme from Into the SpiderVerse, and if you haven't seen Into the SpiderVerse, like I would talk about that movie on numerous episodes of the show. But there's a meme, so it's Peter Parker Spider-Man in his fancy $1 million suit, and then Miles Morales in like the dollar store version of a Spider-Man costume. And usually it's like other people driving their cars, and then you superimpose over the Miles Morales, me and my 86 Civic or whatever. And when you were talking, I was thinking I should ask them what the worst functioning committee at their church is, like right now. Is anybody in this room comfortable with saying the most dysfunctional committee at my church or churches, David, is the blank committee? You willing to put that out on the internet right now? I'm not.
No.
And I think that the sharp edge requires an act of criticism or an availability to be critical, which can sometimes be harmful, that we just avoid in the Protestant mainline. I think we talk down sin. I think we talk down what it means to be, I'm going to say principled, but I'll come back to that word if I need to clarify it. And I definitely think like the church can't make fun of itself because it's too damn sensitive.
But we don't have the relationship to do so. Part of what meme culture requires is a relationship to at least some of the content, right? I mean, like for you to get, one of my questions actually is, what can memes teach the church about like cultural curiosity? Because to understand and to have a meme make sense to you, you have to have at least a point of reference for either the image or the text. And so when you don't, there, does it spark, curiosity outside of, I love to look at memes outside of my own like understanding of culture. Like you know, if you follow enough spaces on like Black Twitter, like some of the memes I don't understand, but it gives me a point to say, what does this mean? How, you know, why is this being shared in my timeline thousands of times and I don't get it? How do I?
What does it mean if a church knows what TikTok is or doesn't know what TikTok is?
Right. I mean, that
Pardon,
seems like,
Steph, I interrupted. I'm sorry.
no, but I mean, like that part of that, I'm going back to this like kind of a sharpened edge metaphor, I suppose, but it's like trying to cut down a tree with a butter knife when we have a saw right next to us. We just choose not to use it. And so, you know, what memes kind of give you the option to have and be the saw, but to do so in a forest of no one. You get to engage in this conversation in your own kind of personal context, and you're part of the larger community that has seen it, but you don't actually have to engage in that larger. It's a safe space to be curious. So, yeah. Yeah.
I was telling sorry, I was putting that into the chat. If you're watching our show, person who runs the Disciples Memes page, like, I'd like to have a conversation with you because I think your heart's in the right place. But when the Disciples Memes page, and I appreciate it because it is a thoughtful, you can tell it's heartfelt, but you just get like these paragraphs of information over an image, which is not a meme. And
No.
it's finding that way in it.
UCC's is not a whole lot better, I hate to tell you, but that's why I like, for church stuff, I like Unvirtuous Abbey.
I have a story about the wonderful gentleman who runs Unvirtuous Abbey and me stealing his phone and calling somebody I shouldn't have from it, because he is kind of a pastor to a whole lot of folk who have been memed. It's so Unvirtuous Abbey, because he shares and he finds the right stuff, and he's a curator, he's a cultivator. Mm-hmm. That actually is my last question, which I'm glad you brought it up. What would it mean for the church to cultivate instead of curate? That is, to grow and to find and to seek and to shift instead of building a museum.
That's where it's at, I think. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to go first, Spiff. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're always allowed to go first as the guest.
Well, I think that's the key, and that takes a lot of practice. I think it takes a different approach, quite honestly, than most of us ministers are willing to take. It takes more time to get to the place where a congregation will trust us to that level. I'm just now getting to the place. I've been 5 years, coming up on 5 years at one congregation, and I'm just now kind of getting to the place where people will respond to me with a gentler, more subversive kind of approach to kind of, let them do some of the work, but have them know them well enough to where I can lead them in a way where they'll be the ones generating the energy and the vision and the ideas, not solely by themselves, but instead of just being passive, showing up for committee meetings, saying yay or nay. So it takes, and for my style anyway, it takes some time and it takes some trust.
Yeah, for me, it takes a posture of leadership that follows Christ rather than capitalism, right? Some sort of, it takes courage, right? It takes leadership with courage, and that courage needs to be met with support and care from your congregation. That's part of it. And the trust that the good faith that, like, even if you possibly disagree with your pastor, that your pastor is leading you to a place that follows Jesus more faithfully, right? That we've lost a little bit of that, of that trust to be able to say, we're just going to follow Jesus in a really real way, and do so, period, rather than live into the comfort of how we have always done it because that's the way that we've always done it, which I think is what memes do. They help us reevaluate and restructure and refocus what we're trying to say, how we try to engage with a certain thing, and open it up to a new understanding, which at the very best of a sermon, very best of conversations, Bible studies regarding the life and call of Jesus, like that's what we do best. When we engage faithfully with each other at our best, we also open up others' experiences of God's call in their life. And for me, that's memes at their best. I don't know how y'all feel, but
That's good. I like that.
That'll preach.
well, good thing that I quit my corporate job to come do this work.
Cognizant of the time.
Exactly. Yeah,
if I
exactly.
may.
Okay. Yeah. You want to ask the final question?
No, I'm not comfortable doing that. I would like you to ask the final question, please.
Okay. We've established roles here in this on 2-on-1, and that's just where we're at.
I know what the question is. I don't think I could ask it.
Okay. Well, David, as thank you so much for joining us and kind of helping us explore what means meme to us. What do we meme when we talk about memes? I feel like Arthur right now with my meme puns. Anyways, you get to answer the final question. And that final question is, what biblical book, character, theme, kind of anything.
Oeuvre.
What?
Oeuvre.
Exactly. Are you most reminded of in memes?
A biblical character?
Character, theme, book, context?
I don't think they had names. But what were the what story is it in the Hebrew scriptures? It's where the young people are making fun of the bald guy.
That's Elisha. That's chapter 2 of 2 Kings.
Now you got me. Yeah, that's where it. And then the prophet, or the she bears get sent to. So the reason I think of that is they were mocking. So I think a lot of memes that I laugh at are kind of mocking, not bald guys in particular. I happen to be a bald guy, so my mind went there. But no, I think I thought of the idea of kind of a little bit of a mockery, but hopefully the good memes can do it with a point besides just cruelty or belittling another person because of their follicular structure, as I like to say.
Follicular structure, I like it. Arthur, what about you?
David was a propagandist. David absolutely was a propagandist. It sucks that he probably commissioned 1st and 2nd Samuel and Kings, and it failed to make him look good. But it's David. Saul has killed his thousands, and David his 10,000. I guarantee you he wrote that. I guarantee you he taught it. I guarantee you he put it out there. David.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you.
And also, I don't really like him today. So.
You don't like David today?
Me?
Not a big fan of his today. No, yeah. King David. Cling David.
For me, I went with a couple. So I think that there's something about, I mean, obviously we are in Advent, and so I think part of me was thinking the 3rd week of Advent in joy, that there's something at the heart of memes that is meant to be a little bit of anticipatory, that you're reading to see what the kind of turn of phrase is, and that there is joy in that kind of that space. I also kind of was like, oh, maybe they're the parables. Maybe like memes offer that kind of layered understanding of what we are supposed to know and see, and kind of push us into that space of dissection. But for whatever reason, and it is escaping me what the scripture is again, and this is why I was like, oh, I should look this up. If the church had, or if scripture had a memeable like moment, or one of my favorite moments is when the bear comes and eats like the 42 children out of nowhere. And I was like, that is in my head such a memeable moment in scripture, that like if you had to take a screenshot of the biblical narratives, like that would be one that would be memed often and well. And what does that kind of, what would that moment teach us? Because I love taking those moments in scripture and that seems so far-fetched and unrelatable and making them really kind of poignant to the moment that we're in. And I think that that's what memes do.
I like that you and David came up with the same story. That's good.
Yeah.
I feel a little out of place.
I was like, I think it's the
fine.
same, but I wasn't entirely sure. And you know,
Can you tag on? Yeah, Arthur on the fly. Can you tag on another part of that whole saga to make it meme worthy?
Well, I mean, I did say overall the Samuel King's narrative, so
sure.
we do agree.
Well, there you go.
I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I can, because we are new, and I have the graphic pulled up because I moved over to my computer. Jeff One Road Designs is our sponsor, and we are thankful for them today. We're also thankful to you, David, for coming on and talking with us about memes. I'm sorry that I'm just living my worst life when it comes to technology right now. And next week, I'm going to have a power cord when we start. And I'm sorry, Spiff, I hate doing that. But thank you for your patience.
We all,
David,
we're gonna miss and we're gonna hit and miss some things, and that's just the way they are.
So, David, thank you for your work in Federated Weatherford and Norman, Oklahoma. We wish you well on the circuit riding for the UCC, of course. This has been 2 on 1, which is good. Spiff, who's coming up in the next couple weeks?
We have JR Foresteros, who runs his own podcast. And next week he's coming on and we are going to talk about The Good Place. And which I think is a really appropriate thing for Advent 2. We're going to be peace, right? Is that where we're at? And what does that look like? And I think that that's cool. And then we're going to have on Kara Gilger and who else we got coming up, Arthur? We just got some people.
Yeah. The 23rd will be the Reverend Colin McCraney out of Kent, Washington. He's still picking a topic, but I'm going to pressure him into one that I like. He doesn't watch the show yet.
Well, there you go. So
I don't think he would have said yes if he did. No.
There you go.
Kidding.
So David, thank you all so much. Travis, where is our theme song? Because this would be really cool to go out on a theme song. All right, friends, this has been 2 on 1. We will see you next week and have a good one. Talk to you later.
Thank you all very much. Goodbye.